Chapter 6. Step 1. Set a goal. If you do not think about the future, you cannot have one. John Galsworthy, Swan Song, 1928. A surprising number of people find these three words terrifying. Set a goal. Some are overwhelmed by the range of possibilities, and others are discouraged by a dearth of options. Me? I never sweat it, and you don't have to either. You can always set a goal in the language of business, the language of money. When the private equity company I work with hired me to become CEO of an underperforming company it had bought, that's just the language I led our executive leadership team in speaking. Rolling Thunder Engineered Parts, introduced in the preceding chapter, is a large distributor of aftermarket parts for various vehicles, from motorcycles and ATVs to outdoor power equipment to light vehicles. It covers the United States and 13 other countries in South America, Europe, and Asia, expanding in kudzu fashion regarding markets, products, and geographical spread. The one thing missing? Strategy. Strategic growth, that is, profitable growth, is always good. Growth in and of itself, however, can turn out to be good, bad, or indifferent, which is just another word for bad. For too many years, Rolling Thunder had been dodging strategic growth by focusing on acquisitions. The pandemic had delivered extraordinary growth, and now the party was over. People were going back to work. The result was that it was soon rolling toward a declining market. When I entered the company, its most recent history was marked by declining financial results. The company's people were not stupid. They just hadn't been paying attention, not to the business or each other. Some were pulling, others were pushing, and many were struggling just to stand in place. Now, people start businesses for different reasons. Some have a passion for a particular product or industry. Some have a family tradition to honor. Some have certain moral or philanthropic motives. Private equity, which employed me, just wanted to make money. They buy a company low, grow it, and then sell it high. That's their basic business model. It is by no means a cynical or craven model. To buy low and sell high requires adding value to the company, which calls for astute and earnest stewardship of the enterprise with a level of management that makes the company better. This is a goal and achievement that benefits all stakeholders. Moreover, adding value to increase the sales price is a very clear and straightforward purpose. That doesn't make it easy to achieve, but it does make it easy to understand. So, when my firm put me into Rolling Thunder as CEO, my assignment was sufficiently straightforward to declare in a single imperative sentence: turn it around. Turn it around. That was my purpose. Okay, but where did we need to go? Speaking the language of money, I set a financial goal for Rolling Thunder: to reach $2.3 billion in revenue, have 18% margins, and $300 million in EBITDA within 3 years. With that goal up in lights, step 1 was done. I had allocated 10 days of the first 100 days to set a goal for the turnaround. Did we need all 10 days to develop something that can be stated in a single sentence containing just 3 numbers? In fact, writing it down took about 10 seconds, but preparing to write it called for getting a high-level view of the company's performance and then asking questions of leaders at both the executive and operational level. That kind of walking around does take some time. Also, a goal is a what we must achieve. We also had to broadly outline a how we were going to win that goal. So, almost immediately after the leadership core meeting, in which the goal was set, I called our first town hall meeting, at which the goal was presented. At both the town hall and in a summary open letter to the organization following it, I explained. We will begin by simplifying our business. The executive team has reviewed what to stop, start, and continue doing immediately. To get foundationally solid, we will communicate that shortly. Then I added the process that is key to any simplification, namely an 80/20 process. We will, I explained, use data to determine where to simplify and grow the business by determining where to raise prices to increase our bottom line. Goal. Out of what did I pull my numbers? The goal. Where did it come from? Thin air? My hat? First, understand that the most important thing about the goal is that it is a goal, something we didn't have before. The numbers, $2.3 billion in revenue, 18% margins, $300 million in EBITDA. Within 5 years, are just numbers. Maybe they are precisely the right numbers. Maybe we could have come up with better numbers. At least they aren't the wrong numbers because they are not facts but aspirations that have yet to be fulfilled as facts. They are good aspirations, ambitious but possible, even feasible. And perhaps even reasonable. The goal we chose makes a good target, and though an unaimed arrow never misses, it never hits anything you want to hit on purpose. So, the specific numbers aside, the goal provides a target, which provides a direction, which brings order where there was none and replaces panic with hope. When you are called on to turn a company around, you are inevitably torn in two opposite directions. On the one hand, you are supposed to have all the answers. On the other, if you are convinced that you have all the answers, you won't learn anything about the company you are expected not only to save, but to grow profitably. If you think you already know it all, you won't be inclined to look and listen, make yourself understand the company's culture, and learn about its history, processes, and expectations. You won't be inclined to learn about its people. In this project to unlock value, glancing at quarterly reports made it easy to see that the company was suffering from declining financial results. I also saw a whole lot of projects and initiatives underway. The knee-jerk response is to give 3 cheers. After all, doing stuff is better than not doing stuff. Right? And doing a lot of stuff has to be even better. Well, not when most of the stuff is unaccompanied by strategic consideration of return on investment. Doing stuff costs money. The more stuff you do, the more money it costs. And it appeared that nobody was paying much attention to cash flow. Financial data, analytics, KPI, and tracking capabilities ranged from inadequate to nil. Tax issues, including add-back limitations, severance obligations, and contractual cash requirements, were all ignored even though they contributed to an increasingly dismal cash situation. The key to a pilot flying an airplane is acquiring and maintaining situational awareness. For executives piloting a business, the most foundational requirement for acquiring and maintaining situational awareness is having a firm handle on cash flow. As the pilot, you need to know where you are going. How fast, how far, how much fuel, and, oh, yeah, whether you are flying right side up or inverted. Nothing of this level of awareness was evident at Rolling Thunder. It wasn't a case of bad luck. It was a bad strategy, or none. As things were going, there were not very many levers left to yank. The thing is, when you walk into a situation in which a lot is going on in all directions, all of them pretty much wrong, and the only thing that is crystal clear is that the organization is running out of gas, it's easy to get overwhelmed by panic and despair. That is an understandable response, but it is a combination that creates confusion, breeds pessimism, dissolves morale, and creates paralysis. Having reviewed and read all that I could, I held that first core meeting with the upper management team, asked them questions, and then worked with them to set a goal that would, if it could be reached, turn the company around, creating the value that would reverse the decline. To unwind the segments of the company that were hurting us and then refocus our resources on what was performing well or showed sufficient promise to rehabilitate would take time and study. What we needed right now were plausible numbers that could turn us around. So, together, we set our 5-year goal. Based on historical and current performance, we had no reason to believe we could reach that goal. But the goal did give us the numbers we had to make to achieve our goal in 5 years. Possessing this goal demanded that we figure out our go-get. Precisely what we needed to reach the goal. Town hall time. Almost immediately after that first core meeting with the executive leadership team, I convened the first company-wide town hall. In this case, it was a combined in-person and virtual meeting because it involved some 3,600 participants distributed over about 40 locations. The meeting was scheduled to last 2 hours. In the first 60 minutes, I delivered a status report and stated the goal the executive leadership team and I had set. I told the truth, that we were missing sales targets and our costs were increasing. I stated flatly that we had to take immediate action to start hitting our targets while reducing costs. We needed to steady the company. I said. I explained that we would act quickly to cut spending and initiatives not tied to revenue generation. This would enable us to focus on the most important priorities for our success. After delivering the unvarnished truth, the bad, the ugly, and the good, because there is always good, I told the employees exactly what I intended to do, which was to perform the 4 steps I am outlining in this section of this book. These 4 steps, I explained, will enable us to turn the company around together, so that we can earn the right to grow. The entire second hour of the town hall was devoted to answering questions from the participants. With sales, cash, and morale on a downward trajectory, time is my enemy. The first 100 days are about accelerating change and rapidly earning the right to grow. Another way to accelerate my learning about the company was to draw up and circulate a questionnaire in advance of the town hall in which I asked employees to answer as many questions as possible. I ensured that we discussed their answers before the town hall so that I could read them. I chose certain questions to bring up and discuss in the town hall. After this, time permitting, I opened the proceedings to spontaneous questions. Accelerate your learning with a questionnaire. Questions to ask about the past performance. 1. How well or poorly has the company performed in the past? 2. What goals were set? 3. What kind of benchmarks were employed? 4. What actions were taken when goals were not reached? 5. What initiatives for change were made in the past? 6. Who was most responsible for change initiatives? 7. How effective or ineffective were these attempts at change? 8. What drivers have had a positive impact on performance? Why? 9. What drivers have had a negative impact on performance? Why? 10. How have the company's strategy, structure, technical capabilities, culture, and politics impacted performance? Questions to ask about the present. Vision and strategy. 1. Does the company have a clear vision statement? If so, what is it? 2. Does the company have a clear articulation of strategy? If so, what is it? 3. Is the company's strategy being executed optimally? 4. If not, why not? If so, will this strategy win? The team. 1. Who is exceptional? 2. Who is competent and capable? 3. Who is not competent and capable? 4. Who deserves the company's total confidence? 5. Who does not deserve the company's total confidence? 6. Who are the influencers on the team? What are the sources of their influence? Company policies and processes. 1. What are the company's most significant practices and processes? 2. Do the essential practices and processes promote value, productivity, and safety? 3. What can be done to improve performance if practices and processes? Latent risks and hazards. 1. Are there latent risks and hazards that threaten the performance of the company? 2. Is the company subject to cultural/political risks or peril? What are they? Easy victories to score. 1. Where and what are business areas in which easy and early wins can be scored? Questions about the future. Near future challenges and problems. 1. What challenges and problems will the business likely encounter in the coming year? 2. How should we prepare to meet and overcome them? Near future opportunities. 1. What unexploited opportunities lie ahead? What do we need to realize them? Obstacles. 1. What significant obstacles do we face ahead? 2. What do we need to do now to prepare to overcome these obstacles? Company culture. 1. Is the company culture in need of change? 2. Which aspects of the company culture should be preserved? Which aspects should be changed? Following the first core meeting and town hall, having seen, heard, and learned a lot about the company, I met with the entire team and recapped much I had said at the town hall. I'd like to share a bit about where we are now. I began, where we're going, and how we'll get there. I never wagged my finger. And I certainly did not get personal. I repeated the truths I had told at the town hall about how the company was missing sales targets despite increasing costs. I aimed to accelerate the forging of a bond with the organization by telling the truth about the difficulties we faced and the countervailing truth that we were capable of achieving our goal together. Even in a hard situation, the truth, painful as it may be, has great positive power. This lesson was learned and shared by Admiral Jim Stockdale, which I presented in Chapter 2. Those who survived, with him, horrific incarceration as POWs in the Vietnam War did so by facing facts, avoiding complacency and wishful thinking, and never losing confidence that they would ultimately prevail. As Stockdale explained to Jim Collins, you cannot let wishfully optimistic thinking cause you to abandon the discipline to confront the most brutal facts of your current reality, whatever they might be. This Stockdale paradox helps you maintain the discipline to find your way through the worst problems. What you need is a process and the discipline to follow that process. Process can mean the difference between rational hope and panic-stricken despair. Panic and despair are the products of inaction, a sense of not knowing what to do, a feeling of being unable to do anything. Certainly anything capable of turning it around. So, when I walk into an underperforming company, I aim to give the people something to do. I provide direction. As is often the case when I am called in, the first thing or first few things that need doing are starkly obvious. The house is burning, so you put out the fire. The boat is leaking, so you plug the holes. I repeated in my letter what I had said at the town hall: we will quickly cut spending and initiatives not tied to revenue generation to provide a laser focus on the most important priorities for our success. After this, I invited the whole team to look, with me, to the future. That was especially important because these folks were far from certain they had any future, at least not with Rolling Thunder. I did not promise anyone that they would succeed, but I did promise them effective change. Over the next few days, weeks, and months, we'll implement many changes to secure this company's health. Even by itself, promising change is important because the one thing most people in a distressed or declining organization clearly understand is that they need change. If they give it even a little thought, they also understand, without anyone having to tell them, that to make tomorrow different from today, they must do something different today. In the letter, I spelled out the 4 steps that would enable the changes. As I put it, these changes will be tied to my 4-step system, which takes 3 to 4 months to complete. I chose the word system deliberately because it is far more compelling than plan. A system is a set of principles and procedures that tell everyone how to do something. A system is a well-organized framework, a tested method. A plan, in contrast, expresses an aspiration, a hope, an intention. Modify the word system with 4-step, and you endow that system with a lot of exactitude. It is 4 steps, not 3, not 5, and certainly not several or a bunch. The specificity endowed my solution with instant credibility. Framing the system in terms of time was even more impactful, 3 to 4 months. Why did I go out of my way to call it my 4-step system? Full disclosure, the system is hardly unique to me, but I claimed ownership of it because I have repeatedly used it successfully. The possessive pronoun is my promise to an organization that I understand the system, have expertise in implementing the system, and accept personal accountability for the system. To each organization I lead in this first step, I promise my accountability. It is the one thing I know beyond doubt that I control.